What's up, gentlemen?
How's it going?
It's going. I was telling David a minute ago before you joined that I had I don't know if it was food poisoning or something, but I felt like crap last night. And I feel better today, but I'm very tired. So
I had always thought I had food poisoning. I was like, I feel like I got food poisoning. But then one time I actually got food poisoning, and it was probably the sickest I've been in my adult life.
if it's bad, it's real bad. I was dry heaving yesterday, but didn't throw up anything. But I had all of a sudden I was like, it's really cold. And I was like, oh no, I guess I have a fever. And then in the middle of the night, wake up sweating and whatever. So how are things with you all? Anything exciting going on?
New Invincible season dropped today.
Oh, yeah?
That's what I'm excited about.
I still need to catch up on that one. I finally caught up on Fallout and got all of season 2 watched.
Oh, yeah, I haven't started that yet. I haven't had time to watch anything, sadly.
What are you spending your time on, Chris? It's not like you've got small children or anything. Come on.
Yeah, that's the worst. Let's see. How many times did we get up last night? 6 or 7 times, I think.
Yikes.
It's just wakes up crying. And then you got to hold him, rock him back to sleep. And then do that a few times. And then eventually won't go back to sleep because he's hungry at, 4 a.m. So got to sit there for an hour. Because when he eats, normally he'll go back to sleep. But last night he was like, all right, I'm wide awake.
Ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah. And it was like, he wouldn't lay back in my arm, but he was content sitting straight up in my lap. I was like, okay, I guess we'll just look at my phone in the middle of the night for a while.
For however long it takes.
Yeah, which it was too long. So I am tired. How's things with RubyConf going, David?
Oh, I'm excited. The CFP just closed, and I just finished going through doing the first round of evaluations, which that's always fun. Just kind of see what people are thinking about and what they'd like to talk about at a conference.
Some good ones.
There are a few good ones in there. Yeah. I finished my round of it, waiting on the rest of the program committee to finish theirs now. And so I think they've got till the end of this week or next week. I forget, because I didn't pay attention to the deadline, because I'm like, I'm going to get this done inside of 2 days and be done with it.
We are not the same.
And that's fine.
It was a lot of work to go through all those for RailsConf.
Yeah. So. But RailsConf had a lot more though too. RailsConf had, I think we had 250 sessions that were submitted. And for RubyConf, there was only 97. I'm curious if RubyConf has always been that much smaller, or if that's indicative of community sentiment.
Yeah.
I think it's always been much smaller. RubyConf was always the more niche conference compared to the almost commercialization that it felt like was at RailsConf back in the day. So RubyConf was always that fun, smaller conference to go to, because you got to hear really technical talks from people from Japan, and it was just a lot smaller. Yeah, it was always smaller. I remember there being back in Nashville was one of my favorite RubyConfs, and then there were 6 or 7 vendor tables just in the hallway. They've always just been a lot smaller, I think.
That's fair.
Makes sense. Yeah, for whatever reason, RailsConf got to be massive years ago or whatever, when O'Reilly and whatever was involved. I don't think I was even paying attention to any of that stuff back in the day. So it makes sense that RubyConf was probably always kind of the smaller one or whatever. But, attendance, RubyConf in Chicago had really good, strong attendance. That was super fun. I really enjoyed that. So yeah, that's cool. Everybody gets their emails on being picked or not at some point soon then. And then are you guys doing tracks or whatever? Because I don't think for RailsConf we ended up not really necessarily having it organized by, I think tracks came out of, we just picked the talks we liked, and then tracks came out of that, rather than trying to use themes.
It's kind of the same thing this time. The theme for the conference is kind of a 3-part theme that you could consider tracks maybe, but I don't think we're actually going to organize them that way. But the themes that Jason and Freedom settled on were living with the robots, beautiful Ruby, and weird Ruby.
I like that. I like weird Ruby.
Yeah, there were quite a few. Oh yeah, this is a weird Ruby talk. I could see this one fitting right into a track like that, but we'll see what happens.
Like all the weird Ruby stuff Drew Bragg comes up with for the game show.
Yeah, those are always fun. Any kind of like talk that's like not necessarily like, hey, you should do this. It's like, here's this really weird thing that I've discovered, and I'm now going to share it with you so we all know about this weird thing. Those are always really fun. I can't
unsee it, and now neither can you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love those.
It will be interesting. I mean, we just had our first 100-degree day here, and it's March, so that conference being in summer is not going to help.
We had 31 degrees is the high 2 days ago, and it's 85 now. So we just got the worst of both.
Yeah.
Best of both.
I like it when it's 90. When it gets to like 100, over 100, then it's like
and it's more dry there. Like 90 here is like sweating bullets. It is humid and just awful. Our like ideal is in the 70s. 85 is pushing it, starting to usually, because it just ends up being so much more humid. I hate that part.
Yeah, we're at like 10% humidity or something like that. When did you come when Brooke was here? Was that during the summer?
I don't remember when that was. Very impromptu trip to.
Yeah.
She was a work conference or whatever, and then ended up in the hospital, and I flew out the next morning to go visit her and pick her up and stuff and get her back home. That was quite the fun trip, and thanks for being there for me, because that was scary.
Yeah, no problem. I was like, oh, sweet. I have a friend coming. Like, not for a reason I want him here, though.
No, but it was nice. We did end up having lunch and stuff together, which is good. But yeah, it was a very strange couple days there.
Yeah, but I just remember that hotel that she was staying at was so freaking nice.
Yeah,
I still remember that.
I forget what that was, but it was where the conference was at or something. So it was kind of a resort-like thing. It was nice.
Yeah, for people mildly familiar with Arizona, it was in Scottsdale, and that tells you pretty much all you need to know.
That conference was thrown, and the company that did that, their clients are like Fortune 500 companies and stuff. So it was like, yeah, we'll spend lots of money on this, and they tend to do that, which is convenient. It was nice to go to those things, I'm sure. But
busy week. I've been working on some auth stuff. I think I brought that up last week, and I'm done, I think, with the auth stuff, and I'm so happy. Yeah, because I'm just ready to be done with that.
Yeah, I was building an OAuth client the other day, and it's like, yeah, I forgot how to do these. I do, one of those maybe once a year from scratch, or like fix some that's unmaintained or whatever. But yeah, auth is like, I don't know. There's a lot of tricky stuff there, especially if you're doing single sign-on and whatever else. And it's like, I saw somebody this morning that was talking about, single sign-on should kind of be like a table stakes these days, which I agree with. It's like a lot of additional sort of workflow and complexity, though. And just, I understand why people don't always ship that by default. But they were complaining about like the business case of like, you're going to force me to use the enterprise plan just to get single sign-on or whatever. It's like, yeah, it is a good indicator that they're potentially good, more expensive client or whatever. But it's like these days, people are talking about like Ben Orenstein's working on stuff is like, what if we work on apps where only agents can log in and like no humans are actually allowed to log in? Like, what a strange world we may end up being in writing software like that.
Yikes.
Your authentication is like, what's the reverse CAPTCHA? It was like, we want to make sure you're a bot and you're not human.
Yeah. Man, dude, that's a good business idea right there. How do we come up with the reverse CAPTCHA?
You just spell CAPTCHA backwards. Did you know that downtime costs $427 per minute on average for small businesses and up to $9,000 per minute for medium-sized businesses? That's every single minute. Honeybadger helps you avoid costly downtime and saves you money by combining error tracking, performance monitoring, uptime monitoring, and more into one easy-to-use platform, helping you fix outages faster than ever. Best of all, Honeybadger is free to get started, and setup takes as little as 5 minutes. Be sure to bookmark honeybadger.io. That's www.honeybadger.io. Such a strange time. I've been curious to see too, like there's a lot of people that now are talking about, I saw Jesse from Bento talking about, he's building an email service, and Zeno was talking about this with Resend as well. It's like those particular services, people want to potentially interact with the product without any UI at all. Or they're like, I don't even want to log in. I just want to tell Claude to send this email or to set up this like automation or something. It's like, I don't ever want to go to your website and set these things up manually. That sounds terrible. Just have AI do it for me. And I was like, ooh, fascinating. Things may be very different.
Yeah, I'm filled with so much joy over that thought.
You sound like it.
Sounds like an interesting world to live in, maybe, but at the same time, like how much do you really trust the robot to do exactly what you wanted it to do without the visualization? I don't know.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Is like, as long as it can confirm that it did the thing correctly, then yes.
And
but
you believe that
if
it's not hallucinating.
Right. But that's the trick there. And then I was listening to a video that the Primogen put out this morning or yesterday, and he was talking about Mitchell Hashimoto talking about fixing a bug in Ghosty, and the way he was using Codex to solve this bug. He basically said, hey, go use GitHub and CLI, get this issue, read through it, and figure out what the issue is. Because they were struggling to find what was causing this bug, and it was like flickering in Ghosty or something. And it was interesting because he had said, and he's super smart. He had said that he and several other people had tried to like go through and debug that and couldn't figure it out, or got to a point where it was like, well, we could keep going on this, but it's not really worth our time. So he basically threw Codex at it, and Codex ended up reading through the GTK like GUI source code and figured out like by throwing away this instance, it's going to like recreate a new window or whatever. So we should try to reuse the window as opposed to, delete the object and create new ones or whatever. And that was, I guess, the cause of the flicker or something like that. But yeah, Primogen was talking about, the interesting part of that was like, sometimes you'll want to write everything yourself, or you just tell it to do everything and like vibe code it. But the middle ground of what he was talking about there was pretty awesome, which was like, okay, you came up with the solution, but it's not well written. So let's go refine it. Now that you've like fixed the bug, let's go back and, have a balance there where it's like, I still am going to be the person choosing the style of how we implement this and whatever, but finding those tough problems and getting them solved is like, cool. It's not really worth my time to dig super deeply into this and waste days or hours or whatever on finding that. That is a perfect task. And Hashimoto was talking about like Codex 5.4 was actually the only one that went through the depth of actually like, I'm going to read the GTK source code and figure out exactly how it works so we can find the solution to it. But that was cool on its own. But then it was like, yeah, the cool part about this is like, if you're generally a good programmer, the benefits of the LLMs are not to do everything for you. Like it's going to produce functional code, but eventually it's going to be just too sloppy. So it's your job to keep reining it back in and defining the style and how it should solve problems. Because a lot of times you'll see it like delete something. Or what was it? Did you see Robbie Russell's post this morning? That was like
yesterday. Yeah.
It was like, yeah, deleted 500,000 lines of code and added 3 lines. It's like, oh, good. Yeah, I'm sure that works correctly.
Sure, that's exactly what you wanted.
Hey man, I'm a big fan of deleting code, so
half a million lines of it.
Yeah, and it's down to 3. What if what it did was just, put a semicolon and then just join the lines together?
Just minimize the whole code base.
Yeah, it's still 500 lines of code technically, but now we've just compressed it to 3 lines.
They're like, this code's a little slow. We want to improve the organization. It's like, all right, well, rather than this whole file and folder thing, let's just stick it all in one file and let's just go ahead and minimize it so it's nice and small.
3 lines is faster than 500,000 lines. That's for sure.
That's what they say.
Optimizing for the machines now instead of for the developer.
Yeah. Maybe you could write an LLM that optimizes for like obscure code or something, like the weird Ruby, where it just tries to write the weirdest Ruby. So it's got its own job security. It's like humans will never be able to understand
No
this,
one
but
else
it
can
does
understand
work.
this.
But it does work. So
please
you're
write
gonna have
this
to rely on
code.
me.
Make sure no one else but me can ever come back and change it. But it has to work. Send prompt.
Yeah, this is what they can bake in. This can be like Claude could add that as functionality to the LLM so that it's like, yeah, you know what? You can't switch over to anything else. This is our proprietary version.
This is the lock-in.
Yeah.
Well, I did see an interesting discussion about some people were like, well, wouldn't it just be more efficient to make AI write its own programming language that it can like, that's optimized for AI? And a bunch of researchers were like, yeah, in theory, that sounds great. But if you understand how these models are trained, that's actually not great at all, because it's like it'd have to come up with all these solutions and then there's no reference for it. So no, that would be a better, that would probably be a lot worse.
Yeah, because it's already trained on all the human work and effort. So you would have no context to start with then.
There was an article I was reading the other day that it wasn't about programming, but it was about LLMs and the use of AI and, you know, how it gives advice to people, basically being the human statistical average of the data that it has been trained on, like off of like, you know, huge Reddit data pulls or whatever. The article, it was talking specifically about, you know, when you asking about like human interaction, relationship advice, that they found that the AIs were overwhelmingly likely to be like, yeah, just walk away, just end the relationship, because
that's a Redditor response right there. Just break up with him. What are you doing?
Because people in healthy relationships aren't generally going to jump on Reddit and be like, oh yeah, this is toxic, you should get out.
Hey, now my AI girlfriend's not going to like it when I tell her this, what you said about this.
Probably not. Yeah.
But you're just going to break up with her anyways.
Yeah.
You need a new one.
Sorry, we're
just
done.
Generate you a new one.
But yeah, so it's like, I can see like the idea of just letting the AI do its own programming language that it understands. That sounds like a thought experiment more than anything else, just because
it's just going to come back with, it's going to basically reinvent JavaScript. That's what it'll do.
Probably Python, it seems. It seems pretty partial to that.
Could be, yeah.
Now we have Python 4 disaster. Let's go.
Did you guys see the post from Sam Altman? He goes, I have so much gratitude to people who wrote extremely complex software character by character. It already feels difficult to remember how much effort it really took. Thank you for getting us to this point. And like the 4,000 comments on there, like, wait a minute, you just stole all of our work. You know, like you just went and scraped GitHub and everything. And it's like, what are you trying to say here? You're trying to say thank you for writing all this code so that you can kill our jobs. Like, I thought that was hilarious.
Yeah, after this episode, I'm literally going to log on to Twitter and leave a little reply on that as well, probably.
Yeah, it was like most of the comments are like, thanks for your work. It's mine now. It's such a weird thing to like, yeah, there's no actual gratitude there or whatever. It's just a strange time, you know, and it wasn't that long ago. We had copyright and whatever that was such a big deal. And now it's like, actually, we did this without permission and it seems okay to do that. Like no one's gotten in trouble for doing that. So,
well, they are getting sued everywhere for it,
but they're not getting in trouble enough to shut down. Like,
no, like they're settling for pennies.
Yeah, that just means like, okay, cool, it's fine so long as you pay us a little bit if we're willing to sue you. But everybody else who can't afford to is like, yeah, it's okay, it's good enough.
Are you tired of babysitting your job queues? Let us do it for you. JudoScale monitors and autoscales your job queues so you can stop babysitting and get back to coding. We support Sidekick, SolidQ, GoodJob, and just about every other job backend in Rubyland. And of course, we autoscale your web services too. JudoScale scales up your apps faster than any other autoscaler, so request timeouts and backed up job queues are mitigated before they become a problem. JudoScale has a free plan you can use forever, so there's literally no risk, whether you're on Heroku, AWS, Render, or any other cloud platform. Visit judoscale.com and get your job queues under control.
We need these AI companies, or that's how we're powering our surveillance and our military now. They aren't going anywhere, dude.
That particular bit front with Anthropic and the War Department, where the War Department is like telling Anthropic they want Anthropic to drop the guardrails against unilateral human surveillance and AI-driven weapons of war. I was just like, wait. You want the robots to be more in control of... Did you not watch Terminator 2 growing up or anything? Come on.
Well, they had to come out and say that school that was bombed by a U.S. Tomahawk that strike was not done with AI. They had to be very clear about that. And I was like, the fact that you even have to specify that is wild.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then you had Anthropic being like, okay, then we won't do that. And then old Sam Altman swoops right in and is like, I'll take that contract. That sounds fine with me.
Well, then he got flack and had to roll some of those comments back. And then Anthropic went back to negotiate with the Pentagon. So
Sam is insane. Just like so tone deaf on all this. But I think he's like strung himself out so much because now he is dependent on everybody else to be giving him billions of dollars to do anything. And they're not making enough money from subscribers at all to afford to do what they're doing. And he's talking about spending like $1 trillion or whatever a year in the future. And it's like, how is that going to ever work out in the long run? I don't know. It's kind of insane though.
Something that's also been popping up this week is more and more states like requiring you to upload a driver's license or like a scan of your face in order to like log in for like age verification. And I found out that apparently Meta is one of the biggest like lobbyists for this.
I saw that too. Like they're using that as leverage where it's like, well, we'll have all this data about every single person ever. And it's to their benefit to like have that kind of thing. It's like, oh God, no. Because what was it? Like there was talk about, California passed that thing. It's like you have to do age verification to use your operating system. And they were like, how are they going to implement that and enforce it on Linux? What does that even mean? That doesn't make any sense. But I saw something about Illinois doing maybe similar things or whatever. It's like, what's fascinating is how all these lawmakers and people are absolutely not technologists or very familiar with any of this stuff. And it's like, they're making rules and laws and whatever about these things that they don't totally understand or the implications of that. And then you get Facebook saying, hey, this could be a good idea. We'll give you money to do that and make sure it gets passed.
It almost sounds like our entire political system is broken and that we need to...
It's weird. Yeah.
Do something about that.
Yeah. It seems like lobbying shouldn't be legal.
Lobbying shouldn't be legal, and the elected officials should be more representative of the general
Somebody
population.
Should be held accountable.
Predominantly old white guys.
Yeah,
no one's gonna be held accountable.
No,
too much money, dude. Too much money.
It's insane.
To be clear, I think social media is poison for people. On the other hand, I don't support anyone trying to like limit the internet.
I mean, there's so many fine lines of things. It's like, should Silk Road be legal where you can buy hitmen and stuff and drugs and whatever else? And it's like, okay, well, maybe there should be a line somewhere, but then where does that line live and everything? And it's just so every day more and more complex. And like, okay, can we use AI to generate, images of an actual human being? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you want to use it for yourself, and generate a headshot for work or something, or your team, and then you could have AI generate them all consistently or something. Okay. But then it's like the second you can do that for somebody else, and it's like you could do stuff that, we don't even want to talk about. And it's like, where the hell do you draw the line? How does that even work? It's tough. It's just like infinitely more complex these days.
Yeah, I mean, I've brought this up in the past. We need much better like laws around deep faking. Like it's getting out of hand, especially and most unfortunately with kids in school doing it to each other,
Oh yeah.
which is a crime. But I wanted to do it of you. And also now that these videos and image generation is getting so good, like there was like a bunch of videos of some like senator or house member the other day that were being spread all over the place, but they were AI videos. And it's like, it's going to get worse.
And the weird part is like, there's definitely benefits to having these tools, but the like sheer amount of like nonsense that comes out of it, it's like so many weird things, memes and other like garbage, AI slop, all these articles, whatever. There was a post I saw earlier today that was like, yeah, you know what? Your AI generated articles for marketing like may have 3 months of traffic or whatever, but like after that, they just die off real fast. And it's like, yeah, you know what's going to happen? It's just other people are going to generate the same kind of things, or the algorithm for search is going to like point people in other directions, whatever. So we're just going to have like all this garbage to sift through or whatever. And it's going to be impossible. YouTube, same thing. It's like a few weeks back, I think I talked about this. It's like my son and I were watching this video that was like Paw Patrol and Thomas the Tank Engine and like all this stuff AI generated together in the weirdest ways. And like Thomas the Tank Engine would look extremely like creepy one scene, and then the next one looks just like, you know, he normally does or whatever. And it's like, what the hell are we watching? My son had no idea, but I was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. But yeah, it's like we're going to just have so much garbage. At the end of the day, yes, if this helps some people, I don't know, answer support tickets without a human intervention, that's cool, I guess. Saves a little bit of time or whatever. But like the actual economic benefits seem like a fraction of what they're claiming to be. It's definitely helpful somewhat for programming, but like also seems to be the excuse to say like, hey, I don't know that we're in a recession yet, but we're going to lay off a bunch of developers because it's not really because of AI. They're just using it as the excuse. But it's also like, yeah, the argument goes the opposite direction. If AI was actually that beneficial to your development team, then you would be hiring more developers to own 100% of your market, whatever you're competing in. It's like, so yeah, it must not be doing that because everybody's laying off developers instead of hiring more to take more advantage of this. Because obviously, if you run a database company, you could put everybody out of business if you're really every developer is 10 times more productive. You could solve every problem you've ever had, right? That's what you're claiming, but that's not the case. That happens in real life.
Strange. Finally get that 10x developer we were promised.
Yeah. We got one, then we laid off 10.
Yeah, we'll see. That's how it works, right? Multiplication.
Yeah, that way.
It's helpful, especially when you're talking about like things like support tickets and stuff like that. Like we're trying out something that like you throw out a support ticket and it tries to do some code investigation and try to figure out what the issue is. And someone brought up a bug to me yesterday, and I looked at the little issue report that the AI had wrote about where it thought the issue may be, and I was like, yeah, all of this is wrong, but it did have one little point where I was like, I do think it is because of this issue, but the solution it's suggesting is completely wrong. And we just need to change like one thing right here. We just need to add a guard clause right here and we're good to go.
Yeah, I've found it incredibly useful for those things where I'm like, oh, you know what? I didn't think of that. Generally, 90% of this seems irrelevant or whatever, but actually that's a good point. This little thing here is a tidbit I didn't think of, and that can be incredibly valuable. Time saving and whatever else. And, you know, more of the research models that spend more time doing things like the ghosty bug make a lot of sense, where you're like, I can't justify my time doing this because there are more important things. But if you can just send the agent off to go do some work and come back to it later, then you're like, actually, even if there was just the one little tidbit it found, could be valuable for that. But it's not like fully replacing you, you know, not at all.
Yeah. Having it do those exploration tests is where I find helpful for. I'm like, I'm about to start on this thing and I know that there's similar things out there, or I want to know how this works, or I want to know where we handle a certain thing. I'll tell to go do some research, and then I'll get up and go make myself a sandwich, and I'll come back and I'll read through and I'll be like, okay, well, this gives me enough where I'm like, okay, now I know where to start. It does help me a lot of that because I have a lot of like once I start a task, I'm like good to go, but the whole starting part is very difficult for me. So it does help kind of jumpstart some of those things.
There's a lot of times where I know that I will be not necessarily overanalyzing a problem before I start, but I'm like, look, I could implement this 15 different ways. These are the top 2 choices I would pick, but like they have their trade-offs, and I don't know how either one of them will scale or whatever. Like, am I going to walk into a brick wall at some point and have some crappy, data migration to run with millions of records and stuff in the future if I realize too late? And so I try to spend the extra time ahead of time figuring out like what would somebody at GitHub scale do, to architect this table or something. And that can be really useful because it's like I may just fiddle around for a few hours and never really find a good solution for it or something and just have to pick one and gamble with it. But you can often get some really good advice of like, here's some trade-offs that you might consider. It's kind of the long tail. If you were to go use Google to search for that, you'd end up on a few blog posts, a few Stack Overflow posts, and it would just be like the first page of results that you might look at, maybe 2, but you would be skimming all that. But what's nice about the AI is like it can just kind of look at everything that's on the internet and then like find those weird, like on page 50, there's somebody talking about exactly what you're talking about. And it can surface that information in a way that like would probably be impossible for you before. And that's kind of, I guess, what the magic is like being trained on the entire internet. But it can be super useful for that type of stuff. I find that really nice. But yeah, I'm trying to think like there was Ruby 4.0.2 that got released. Trying to think of what else is going on in Rails world. There's like a few updates to Rails, but activity seems kind of low right now on the Rails code base or whatever. Didn't see a whole lot going on. So I guess, it'll probably be the mad dash right before September Rails world, I'm guessing.
Yeah. I feel like everyone's just so busy right now. like Rails does everything I want it to right now. So yeah, good.
Yeah. And that's kind of the thing too, that people have been talking about was like agents and LLMs just make you even more stressed out because now you're doing more things in parallel, more. It's just like more. You're expected to do more. And it just is like overwhelming. And I definitely feel that.
Yeah. My new favorite saying though, we were in a meeting the other day and this meeting had been going on for a long time. And my coworker messaged me. He's like, bro, my context window is full. And I was like, dude, I'm right there with you.
That's good. I love that.
Well,
that's all this week, I think. Yeah.
I'm in a whirlwind right now. I haven't stuck my head out to breathe yet. So I have no idea what's going on outside of this project I'm working on. Most of my day is spent hitting the number 1 key or the number 2 key, sometimes the number 3 key, depending on, but usually 1 or 2. Just
it's as high as you can count anyways.
I mean, yeah, honestly.
All right, gentlemen.
Yeah.
Catch you next week.
Yes, sir.
Yep.